1 second.
Okay, thanks. Hello, everyone. Greetings. It's great. I see lots of familiar faces and lots of new names and faces around the virtual room as well. It's great having everybody here. Thank you very much for joining us for this information session on the current UArctic project funding opportunities. I hope that that's what you join the session for. If not, you're probably in the wrong space. But it's very nice to have you all here. I'm Sheila Downer. I work with Memorial University, and my colleague who is helping me out today with the technicalities of this is Lisa Goulet. And Lisa, both of us work with Memorial and the University of the Arctic. Lisa is based in St. John's, and I am in Labrador. And we're very happy to be here bringing this information to you. As I said, I'm going to go through a few slides, and then we will have space for questions. We have lots of people connected today. Lisa, maybe you could tell us exactly how many, because I can't see the whole screen with the presentation open.
Right now we have 81 participants.
Fantastic. That's great. And I think there's something like 100, more than 150 that registered for the session. So lots of interest in this current UArctic project call. Before we get started today, though, I would like to start with land acknowledgement. I would like to begin the session by acknowledging the Indigenous people of all the lands that we're on today. While we meet on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land, which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous people and their cultures. From coast to coast, country to country, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, First Nations, and in case we have people from outside Canada, the Sami people. I encourage you all as we participate in this conversation today to reflect and acknowledge the mistakes of the past and to consider how we can each in our own way support Indigenous people and move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. And this acknowledgement is particularly relevant today as many of the funding streams that we'll be discussing are grounded in Indigenous and Northern collaborations, relationship building, and respect for Indigenous knowledge systems. So let's get started. About UArctic. So most of you, I'm sure I don't need to be talking to you about what UArctic is. I think most of you are connected here, but I would like to point out that UArctic has, as part of its funding mechanisms, they have special agreements with a number of the Arctic states, including Denmark, Norway, and Canada. They have national agreements that help to support these project calls. And so that is the way that these funding mechanisms have been established. And in the case of Canada, we have Memorial University and Yukon University have partnered to administer the national funding on behalf of UArctic. The funding that has been provided for this project call falls under the Arctic and Northern Policy Framework in Canada. It's administered through Global Affairs under the Global Arctic Leadership Initiative. And for the past 5 years, we've had a contribution agreement with Global Affairs that started in 2020, will conclude now this year this fiscal year. It says 25, but really the fiscal year ends in April, at the end of March. And then we have a proposal that's been submitted to the federal government for round 2 funding, which would see the next contribution agreement, which would cover the period of 2026 to 2031. And then from Memorial's perspective, we will use that contribution agreement for activities under membership engagement, which would be Lisa's work, actually, most of Lisa's work. And then, of course, collaborative leadership, which covers a number of activities, including the project fund. So we have 3 project funds funding streams that are involved in the project call. And I think it's very important that you all understand, you may have noticed in the call that has been posted on the UArctic website that the funding availability is subject to approval under Global Affairs. So we've submitted the proposal to Global Affairs in December. We have every reason, I feel very confident in saying that there will be a new contribution agreement, but that will not be. The earliest Global Affairs has indicated that we would see a new contribution agreement would be June, but it's likely to be closer to September. So it will be later. We are hoping that we will at least have some indication by June so that we can let decisions around the submissions that we received this year we will be able to be in a position to notify people of the decisions, but that remains to be seen. So I think it's important that you're aware of that. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out again. So we have 3 funding streams that are included in this call. One is the Indigenous and Northern Relationship Development Fund, and I'll go through each of them individually with further details. And then we have the Indigenous and Northern Research and Education Engagement Funds, and we have 2 streams under this category or funding stream this year. And then we have also provided support for travel support through our travel support fund. So I'll give you a brief update on that one as well. We'll start with the Indigenous Development Fund. This fund was created to support researchers, faculty, and staff of our members in Canada who would like to develop new or strengthen relationships with Indigenous groups and communities. And it plays an important role as a first step in co-creating research. So the maximum amount that could be received under this funding stream is $15,000. And in the previous contribution agreement, the period for this particular funding stream was 1 year. You could have a maximum of up to 1 year to kind of go through the steps of developing the relationship. But we've decided, and based on feedback and important information from people who've been involved in the program up to now, that 1 year would really not long enough, and that a 2-year period. It doesn't mean that all the projects have to be 2 years, but you have up to 2 years to help develop the relationship. The other fund, which we're calling Stream A under the Research Education and Engagement Fund, you could receive up to $40,000 for 2-year projects. These are shorter term collaborative research and education projects. And all of the projects require a Canadian lead. So it must be a UArctic member. From a Canadian institution, and then you need partners, at least 2 UArctic partners, and this project or this fund would help support activities like developing a new thematic network, supporting thematic network activities, so it could be an existing thematic network as well. It could be used to create courses, joint courses or programs of Northern relevance. And so there's a whole range of things that could be done. These are not limited to these things that I've listed on this slide, but those are the types of activities that could be funded under this stream. The next stream under Research Education Engagement Fund is what we were referring to as Stream B. And again, this is a new area of funding for under the UArctic project call. And that again, this has been in response to feedback we've received from partners and our membership that having larger amounts of funds for projects that would extend over a longer period. So this stream will provide up to $100,000 for 5-year projects that could extend for the whole period of the contribution agreement. And we will only be offering this fund for this particular call for this year because of the 5-year period, of course. And so it requires 3 UArctic partners. There must be a Canadian UArctic member as the project lead. It should have very strong alignment with UArctic values and the Arctic and Northern policy framework. And projects that include co-led, co-designed projects with Indigenous groups and communities will definitely receive favorable evaluation rather than those that do not. There is a requirement for some additional information, such as what is the partnership plan with Indigenous groups or communities, how will decisions be made in conjunction with your Indigenous partners, and also how Indigenous knowledge will be incorporated into the project. In terms of the Travel Support Fund, I've received many questions from people about whether or not there would be funding to support travel to the upcoming UArctic Congress and Assembly that's scheduled for the Faroe Islands in May. And up till now, our response has been, unfortunately, the next round of travel support funds will not be available until probably September. But there may be a possibility because of slippage with the previous project calls and so on, that there may be some slippage. So we've just learned this week that there is some funds available that will help to support student engagement at the Congress. So we will be sending, I do need to talk to Global Affairs to confirm that we could issue this funding beyond the March 31st deadline, because as I said, Congress is scheduled for May month. So as soon as I have that confirmation from Global Affairs, we will be sending notification out to everyone around the support for students' engagement in the event. So we'll keep you posted on that. Once we have the confirmation, Lisa will be sending an email out to all of the member institutions in Canada. And if you have any questions, you can certainly let us know. To apply for the funds, the deadline is April 24th. So you have lots of time to sort of flesh out your ideas, build your partnerships, and start to think about your proposal. As in the case for the last 5 years, all of the applications have to be done through Memorial University's application hub. The address is there, but we can provide that if you don't or you miss it from today's discussion. We're certainly happy to provide it further from you and help you with this process. I've included here a couple of screenshots just to give you an idea, not because I plan to walk through it, but to let you know that you do need to register in the hub if you haven't already ever applied for one of the funding streams for the UArctic calls. You do need to create an account, and then you will see the 3 calls that are available to apply for between now and April 24th. And then you go through the application process where it says apply, and it's a follow-through process where you need to provide a project plan, describe your partners. Of course, you need to include a budget. You need to have a letter of endorsement from your institution and some indication of your partnerships, of course. So that is the process for application in all of the funds. And we wanted this session to be as interactive as possible and to provide lots of opportunity for you to ask us questions. I won't guarantee that we'll have the answers, all the answers for you today, but I can guarantee you that we will get the answers for you. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone to make sure I don't miss. So if anyone has questions, I ask you to raise your hand or otherwise put your question in the chat and we'll do our best to address them. Anyone? For those
Somebody
of
in the
you,
chat, oh, someone in the chat has asked, will there be a similar proposal call next year?
good question. So in terms of, so the $100,000 stream will only be available for this year's call. The 40,000, and we'll only be supporting 6 projects because we're limited by the amount of money that will be awarded through Global Affairs. And each year after, for the next 4 years, the $40,000 project call will continue. Heather.
So is there thank you for this, by the way. This is really, really helpful to know. Is there the potential to apply across the different, basically categories? I mean, if you apply for, knowing that, you'd have to make up your mind, you couldn't get all 3, but is that possible to
So
apply?
that is possible. It's a very good question, Heather. Thank you for it. So it's possible to apply across all streams. Of course, this session provides us a great opportunity to inform everybody about our evaluation process. So the way it is, we have it is set up right now for evaluation purposes is we use UArctic. UArctic has a slate of chairs, UArctic chairs, which are experts across a whole range of subject areas. And so the chairs are involved in the evaluation of all the UArctic calls. And so if there's a project related to a subject area, then that chair is generally given the proposal to evaluate. And each of the chairs generally evaluate 3 to 4 proposals. So we have a 2-stage process in Memorial. So we use the chairs for their recommendations and their evaluation, but then we also have what we were referring to as an internal group, but it's not just internal to Memorial. In the past, we have had Memorial researchers involved that are independent, that are not involved in any of the proposals. And then we have someone from Yukon University that's also part of the evaluation team. And then we have generally 2 people from our Indigenous community. Now we are, for the next round of funding, exploring the potential of a Indigenous evaluation committee, how that's going to be, how the recruitment for that will take place still remains to be seen, but that's at a recommendation. This is based on recommendations and feedback from people who have used the project calls in the first round of the first contribution agreement. And so we're exploring that as a possibility because it would be, we often feel that there's not enough of the knowledge and experience and the perspective from our Indigenous community within the evaluation process. And so if we can help address that by establishing an Indigenous evaluation committee, then that's what we'll aim to do. So to continue my response to Heather's question, you can apply to all 3 streams. Of course, the evaluators may very well take note. I would advise you that all 3 should be very distinct projects. They cannot be for the same project. They should be distinct. And of course, if you're in the system, with 3 requests, the likelihood of you sort of being earmarked as is that perhaps we should that they will select what might be the best project to support as opposed to supporting all three. So
Great. There's a bunch of questions in the chat. For one, we've got for support for student engagement for UArctic Congress, does the student apply or their supervisor?
so this student should apply, but with the supervisor's endorsement.
Great. Someone said, I understand that 3 UArctic member institutions are required. Do they need to be in 3 different countries? Thanks.
Ideally, there should be at least one, like one international partner. But the more international partners you have, the more favorable that is in your evaluation as well. That, UArctic is very supportive, and it's part of its value system around collaboration across the network is looked upon very favorably. So it's not an absolute must, but certainly I think it lends itself well to your request. I see Sarah also has her hand up here.
Sure.
Lisa, if I could.
Oh, hi. I'm Sarah Rands. I've just started at Memorial, and my PhD and the hope for the rest of my research is focused on Arctic and subarctic economics. But I'm just starting. I moved here functionally at the start of January, but sort of started a bit earlier. And so I'm interested in the kind of the Building Connections grant, but I'm not fully sure where to start, given that I am so new in my career, and I have some connections, but particularly now that I'm in Memorial, at Memorial, not great connections in Nunatsiavut or in Nunavut. So I'm kind of like looking at that funding for that, but I'm not entirely sure where to start. And yeah.
So Sarah, it's great having you here, and I'm really glad you decided to join today. So what I would suggest is that Lisa follow up with you. Lisa is the engagement
I
coordinator.
actually feel like I did follow up with you this morning, so that's
No.
funny.
It probably came in the realm. There was a bunch of emails associated with this event, and I might have filtered it as one of those. So I'll double check for that for sure.
Okay, perfect.
All right, Lisa, you have other questions in the chat?
Yes, so we have thank you. This is very helpful. 6 projects in total or 6 projects for 100K this year?
6
It
projects
is just
for 100,000. Okay.
yes. And then we have, I think it's 5 projects for the 40,000 this year.
This year.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then we have, I don't know if you answered this or if this came in while you were talking about it, but what is the assessment evaluation criteria for the education funding stream A and stream B?
So we do have an evaluation for, I think it would be useful to share that. And Lisa, is that something that you could do to the registration list here today, that you could share the evaluation criteria with everyone?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I'm just making a note to do that.
So generally speaking, and I'm only just doing this out of memory now, which is not always great, I should tell you, but around the evaluation includes looking at how the project relates to UArctic values, how it relates to the goals of the Canadian Arctic and Northern policy framework, the Indigenous partnerships, the relevance or realistic budgets, realistic project plan, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can the principal investigator receive funding for the proposed project from other funding agencies, like tri-agencies, nonprofit organizations, etc.?
Absolutely, if that's possible. That's the ideal situation in our mind. If these smaller amounts of funding that's available through UArctic can leverage other funding, that's fantastic, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that some people might be interested in is the Danish funding and the Norwegian funding is also open to Canadian I mean, it would have to probably, you'd have to have a partner in Denmark or a partner in Norway, but your project could be for a different aspect of the same project, could be applied for from the Norwegian funds or the Danish funds if you have partners there.
Mhm. Oh, and there's a comment or Greenland.
Oh,
How
Greenland,
many
sorry.
15K projects this year?
So generally we fund 4 to 5, depending on the amount of the request, but generally it's 4 to 5 per year.
Great. That's all the questions from the chat, but Robin Smith has raised her hand.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, Sheila. Hi, Lisa. Robin Smith from Saskatchewan Polytechnic. I just have a question about the range and types of partners that you either are looking for or see on these projects outside of the UArctic member partners, so the post-secondary institutions. Like what else are you looking to see, or what's the range of partners that you typically find here?
Yeah, good question. Robin, generally there's usually 3 UArctic member partners, but there's always, in most of the projects that we've supported, there's always community partners. So whether it's an actual community or community groups, Indigenous groups, there could be development corporations. So there's a whole range of. There's been youth groups, but then there's also other Arctic organizations. So the Arctic Mayors Forum, for instance, as an example, any of the permanent participant groups often are included in as partners as well.
Great. And does it tend to be mostly or only either nonprofit or community organizations, or do you ever see like industry sector partners in these projects?
I stand to be corrected, but I don't recall projects from the first contribution agreement including any industry. I mean, I wouldn't see an issue with like an industry sector organization, but have not seen, for-profit industry partners. But it depends on what the project is, in my mind. It could be on the merits of the project as opposed to, yeah.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay, there's another question. May I ask if there's a match? Is there a matching funding requirement?
So there's a requirement for 25% of the overall project cost in kind and or other funding sources.
Great. No other questions yet?
No other questions? Any comments from anyone? Okay. Well, this was very efficient. Thank you all so much. It's been fantastic interest shown in this. We look forward to. Lisa, I don't know if you want to use this opportunity to maybe highlight your plans for the networking session.
I
And
do.
maybe give a little background about why you're organizing this in terms of the requests for people looking for ideas or looking for, partnerships. So,
Sure. So, coming up in March, I'm hoping to host a networking seminar session. These networking seminar sessions take a funding pot that's either from UArctic or a UArctic member, and they talk about the funds. They have past recipients of the funds talk about their experience and their and answer any questions that people might have. And then it goes into breakout rooms where we are able to help collaborate or come up with project ideas to go towards that funding. The breakout rooms will be themed, so you'll pick which breakout room you would like to go into upon registration. And then I'll assign all the breakout rooms. You'll be able to have discussions that are moderated in each breakout room, and then come back and either you may have the chance to showcase your idea to the whole group for interdisciplinary feedback. I'm hoping to hold this at the beginning of March. You will get an email early next week. So and it is limited capacity. So if you do find that you can't, if you do register and you find you can't come, it's important to let me know so that I can open the space to someone else. But I'm really looking forward to doing this. So if you also have a funding stream with your organization and you would like to host one of these networking sessions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is lisa.goulet@uarctic.org. Oh, and why I started doing them was because I heard from the from the focus groups last year that people have participated in. Thank you again. I know I see some faces of those who actually participated in some of my focus groups and past learning sessions over the years. And I heard that people want more opportunity to help find collaborative partners, to have conversations about what they're doing, to have conversations about their research, and promote what they're doing, but also work together with others or discuss with others ways that we can find solutions to some of the complex problems in the Arctic. And so this was one of the solutions that I came up with. It'll be my first time doing it, so admittedly I'm a little nervous, but I think it'll be great.
That's good. Thank you, Lisa. So yeah, look, keep watch for the email regarding that, and maybe this registration group, Lisa would be a good good to include the whole group for that email. So thank you all very much for your time and interest. These funding programs are an important part of UArctic support across the network. We really appreciate the care and thought that goes into these proposals and the relationships that get formed behind them. And we look forward to working with all of you in the coming months and seeing the submissions that we get for this year's call. Thank you all very, very, very much.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.